Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. It was 14 years ago that the movie A Beautiful Mind picked up 4 Oscars for its inspirational depiction of John Nash, a brilliant and eccentric Princeton mathematician. Well, Indiana may have its own version of A Beautiful Mind in the form of art. David Bazzoni and Jed Bruce are the masterminds behind Joe Journeyman, a search and find children's book that has caught the attention of the National Football League. It's a story of an idea, an incredible talent, and a lifelong bond.
The coolest thing about this entire thing is that this is a story of friendship. Joe Journeyman and all of his buddies traveling the country, his very best friends, but it was created literally by 2 friends. I remember being just unbelievably talented. We were the exact opposite. I mean, we couldn't have been more different. I was the jock, he was the artist, but I always looked up to him. I just remember Jed always being very passionate about his art from the moment I could remember him, carrying around his artwork, always wanting to share that.
From the day he came in, I could see miracles happen. During a person's career, especially as long as mine was, you might get that student, if you're lucky, one time. It just seemed like what he could do in a day, it would take most kids to do in a week. We did an exercise one time of circles, and then you were to try to turn it into something. And when he was done, it was unbelievable how everything tied together. What a lot of junior high kids don't see and understand is how to create depth on a flat plane. And at an early age, he could do that. Everything looked 3D, very sophisticated drawings.
The last year of school that we shared together was 9th grade, and then Jed kind of went his separate way.
Dave and Jed went very separate ways. Dave on to college at the University of Nebraska, ultimately launching a successful consumer products business, Warsaw-based iDNA Brands, which landed licensing deals with the NFL, Major League Baseball, and NCAA for products like the Sportula. For Jed, life was a series of ups and downs. He dropped out of school after 9th grade, later earning his GED. He was accepted into the prestigious Art Institute of Chicago, but left after a year and a half because he couldn't afford the tuition. So he became a street artist.
That's pretty much how I survived when I was in Chicago, was just doing odd jobs and doing portraits on the street.
13 years would pass before these 2 old friends would reunite in a chance meeting at a North Manchester bar.
And I said, man, what's going on? I haven't seen you forever. And so we got to talking, and at the time, Jed was unemployed, and he was expecting his first child. So the best way to say it is he was stressed out. And I had asked him, I said, well, what about your art? And he says, no, I'm not doing it. I'm a typical struggling, starving artist, but I'm always doing it. He goes, I've got my portfolio. And I said, well, let's go look at it. So we literally go out in the alley, he shows me this portfolio, and it's everything I remembered. And so I looked at him and I said, Jed, you know, and I'm kind of embarrassed of this, but I said, you not doing art is like slapping God in the face for just an unbelievable gift. And he looked at me like, yeah, no kidding, right? And I thought, well, I was really smart, David. But the only thing I can say in my defense is I followed it up with, Jed, do you want a job? And Jed, he was emotional, you know, and he thought, this is the greatest thing, you know, that could have happened to me. And so I wrote the address down, gave it to him, and he was there on Monday.
6 months later, Jed was doing odd jobs for Dave, but still not putting his art talents to work. Then, in March 2012, while watching an ESPN special at home, Dave has a revelation.
Somebody on that program mentioned a journeyman, and they were referring to a boxer traveling the world fighting to make a living to support his family, and he was a journeyman fighting from place to place to place, and I thought, that's it. And I yelled back to my wife and I said, Whitney, I said, it's Joe Journeyman, and instead of a boxer, it's a football player, and he was the only player, you know, to play for all 32 teams, and he travels the country and he goes from team to team and city to city, and it'll be like a search and find concept.
Dave quickly calls Jed and says, I know what we're going to be doing for the next 5 years. And they get to work on making Joe Journeyman a reality.
So the original idea had no characters other than Joe Journeyman. and his best friend Leon the Lion. Well, then over time we decided, you know, he should have an entourage. So we developed a storyline, but probably one of the biggest developments was the bad guy. So our villain is Copycat Carl. And as the readers, we need to find Joe Journeyman, find his missing playbook before Copycat Carl does, because if he gets his paws on Joe's playbook, the journey could be over.
So talk about the process. What is involved with each team?
We research everything we can. We learn everything that's important there as far as what's the most popular foods, what are the historical landmarks, what are they known for, you know, just kind of every picture we can get our hands on just to kind of see how the fans react at the games. We really try to internalize all of that and really just kind of get into the city. And then from there, we come up with a lot of really stupid ideas. We like to say they're literal translations of everyday things or everyday expressions that'll make you laugh out loud. So for example, we sit right there at this table behind you, Gary, and we come up with, I remember one very clearly, catfishing. And Jed says, I get it, that's hilarious. He goes, a catfish, like the catfish that you get out of the lake, fishing. I said, that's exactly right. And so it starts with those ideas, we write them down on a list, and then we get together over lunch, we finalize that list. Jed literally sketches it out in front of my eyes and says, this is what you're talking about? And I said, yes, but that's way cooler than what I had in my head. Jed starts to do some initial compositions, some sketches, and by the time he's done with that, those initial compositions and those sketches, he moves to the illustration board, and it takes him 30 days, which is fast if you really think about it, 30 days, but it's also a heck of a commitment.
I think my favorite part is doing the color phase here, because that's when everything seems to come to life when you start adding the color to the piece. And I usually start with the sky to get the general, to set the mood, so to speak, for the piece, and then from there it develops into the rest of the piece, and then I work my way back and forth setting up a color composition. I constantly look at everything and imagine drawing or painting it. The world around me, really, I think, is what really inspires me. And I believe everybody's an artist in their own way, no matter what it is they work on, whether it's like cooking or sports or construction.
After Jed completes several pages of amazing detailed artwork, Dave decides it's time to call in the big dogs and places a call to New York City and the headquarters of the National Football League. Well, welcome back as we continue with the journey of Joe Journeyman. David and Jed take a deep breath and they head to New York City.
So I called up our main contact at the NFL and I said, Jennifer, I've got a new idea that we've been working on. And I said, well, it's a children's concept. And she's thinking, how do you go from a hamburger flipper to a children's concept? But okay, we had done pretty well with the Sports Chiller products, and I think earned their respect and their trust that we were going to come to them with something good. So she agreed to that meeting. And so I told Jed, I said, all right, Jed, we're going to New York. And I said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go buy you a suit. and so we got Jed in front of them and just explained the concept to them, and they loved it. One of the things that Jed said during that meeting, and I thought it was so awesome, is somebody said, explain the process. And he says, well, by the time I get to the illustration board, I've already got 95% of it done in my head. And we hadn't practiced that comment, right? So we'd really rehearsed this, and I went, yeah, Jed, attaboy. And it just blew their minds, blew my mind.
This game is really fun, even though I don't like football.
Well, one of the things we told the NFL, and I really believe this with all my heart, I feel that Joe Journeyman is capable of doing for kids what fantasy football has done for adults. Based on the research we've done, in some of the classrooms we've visited, we think that this product can make kids a fan of the whole league at a much younger age. So before Madden, before fantasy football, there's Joe Journeyman.
With a coveted NFL licensing agreement, Dave, Jed, and an iDNA team that includes illustrators and animators are feverishly working on Volume 1 of Joe Journeyman, which will feature 16 NFL teams, including the Indianapolis Colts. Volume 2, to be released in 2016, will feature 16 more teams, a labor of love that Dave calls much more than a book.
Joe Journeyman is a product for kids. benefiting kids. We've committed 10% of our net profit to 2 different places. Joe's Kids, which is a local 501c3 nonprofit right here in Warsaw, Indiana. We have 1 location right now that serves kids with special needs. We provide speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. And in addition to Joe's Kids, we support local children's hospitals.
This clown, which is incredible, you were in...
I was in a 3rd grade.
It had been some 20 years since junior high art teacher Lynn Watson had seen her prize pupil, so her recent visit to Jed's studio was special.
I'm so proud and happy for you.
Thank you.
I am. This is
Thanks.
wonderful. Isn't this a great
Yeah,
opportunity?
A lot more than I ever thought it was going to be.
Oh, not me. I knew you had it in you all along.
I'm actually not very good at searching finds as far as finding stuff in it, believe it or not. But I have a lot of fun making them.
Oh,
So.
my goodness.
I believe this is the first you've seen of his artwork since those junior high and high school days. What are your thoughts? What do you think about his work?
I was blown away. Second of all, I knew he could do it. I always felt that he had a divine gift, and it would just take the right people at the right time to understand that and work with him. Well, I'd like to cry out of being so pleased and so proud and know that Jed has finally gotten his due. For David to walk in and to see him again and reignite their friendship, because this is nothing but what Jed deserves.
I'm just so damn proud of him, I would describe Jed as the hardest working person that I've ever met. I mean, he's in here at untold hours, but I've never asked him to stay late. He does it because he loves it.
This is it. Turned out to be like way more than I ever imagined at the beginning, and I'm grateful to David and the rest of the people at iDNA Brands for all the hard work they put into to make this all possible. To me, it's all about putting something out there that can inspire other people to pursue and follow their dreams too.
I will never stop believing that this young man is divinely inspired. At the end of the day, I probably learned more from him than he learned from me.
Great story unfolding in Warsaw in northern Indiana. And Joe's journey is continuing. Jed is already sketching out Volume 2, which will be out late next year. Meanwhile, Joe Journeyman Volume 1, here it is. It is being released this weekend. It includes 16 teams, including a great spread of the Indianapolis Colts. It hits the store shelves this weekend. And you can visit www.joejourneyman.com to purchase a book, a puzzle, poster, or canvas of your favorite team. It's an entrepreneurial story that we've enjoyed covering and will continue to follow as well.